fly over this land, I am drawn to the history, the heritage, and the people who have made this region their home. I see a river that is a life-giving force, tying together the land and these people, winding from place to place and gathering stories along the way. I see lush, sweeping farmland and Dutch country roads, punctuated by symbols of commerce and great industry. And while the beauty of this land is easy to see, I can't help but wonder if the significance of our region is equally understood by others. And I think, if only this land had the chance to tell us of all the things it has seen. Perhaps the story would start with pictures. The Native Americans, whose footsteps mapped this land long before the European settlers came, called these rocks the grandfathers because they tell the stories of their nation. For more than 12,000 years, the native people came and went. They were the first farmers and the first caretakers of this land. And while time changed, the Susquehanna River continued to flow, eventually welcoming the settlers to a whole new world.
Good day to thee. I am William Penn. My successors and I formulated many treaties with the native peoples. They encouraged the colonies to agree as one, showing us that a single stick is not as strong as five bound together. I envisioned a society in which religious tolerance would be a way of life. It was this promise of religious freedom that drew the Amish, Mennonites, and other Germanic cultures to this area around 1729, when the county of Lancaster was founded. By 1741, people had moved west of the Susquehanna River, and the town of York came to be. My peaceful policies prevailed for almost a century, but by 1777, the colonies were in the throes of the Revolutionary War. The Second Continental Congress, the same group that had drafted the Declaration of Independence, first met in Lancaster to debate the colony's future. And Lancaster was capital for a day. But under the threat of the advancing British, the Congress crossed the river to York and continued its work for the nation. It was this Congress in York that adopted the Articles of Confederation, binding the colonies together for the first time.
For 9 months, York was the capital of the United States. I wonder how many children growing up now realize the significance of the history represented by the colonial courthouse in York and the impact it has had on their lives today. The story is preserved inside the courthouse, where pictures and words narrate the quest to unite the 13 colonies. Outside the courthouse, time stands still in a tavern, a log house, and the Revolutionary War headquarters where George Washington's position as the leader of the Continental Army was saved. The United States of America. No other words evoke freedom in the hearts and minds of so many. In the years following, this same area between Lancaster and York became a road to freedom for many.
It is impossible to imagine being enslaved. Legally, you are the property of another person. The decisions you can make are few, and the decision to seek freedom is potentially fatal. Most people did not believe that slavery was a just system, but some had the conviction to stand against it. Some names are well known, such as Thaddeus Stevens of Lancaster, a leader in the abolitionist movement. He eventually wrote the 14th Amendment, giving freed slaves citizenship. Others are not so familiar, such as William Goodrich of York and Stephen Smith of Columbia. These men were instrumental in financing the Underground Railroad, a network of churches, people, and hiding places for runaway slaves. Many people believe it was slavery that set the stage for the Civil War. Tracing the war's start to the Christiana resistance, a battle between a Maryland slave owner and a group of enslaved African Americans who sought freedom on the Underground Railroad. This confrontation and its aftermath widened the rift between the North and South. And 10 years later, the Civil War began.
As I look over this landscape, it strikes me that this same road to freedom was eventually the road to war.
It's June 1863, and Confederate soldiers have advanced through York in an attempt to move eastward across the Susquehanna River. Union militia, fearing the Confederates would reach Harrisburg or Philadelphia, made a stand against the invaders at Wrightsville, but we were outnumbered and outgunned. But with the help of the townspeople, Union militia did the only thing we could. We torched the covered bridge that spanned the Susquehanna. And the Confederates, unable to cross the river, turned their attention toward the town of Gettysburg and thus altered the Civil War's outcome. Today, the Columbia-Wrightsville Bridge stands next to the piers of the same bridge that went up in flames over a century ago.
It's unsettling that sometimes it takes great unrest to arrive at peace. It is in such contrast with the natural beauty and peaceful nature of this land.
My family has farmed this land for generations. I guess you could say we're part of a tradition of preservation.
Our countryside is well known for its fertile soil. It's no wonder so many people come here to experience the local food and culture.
When I think of my plain neighbors who've withstood the test of time and the temptation of the modern world, yet here as farmers, we work side by side. We share the same road. We sell our produce at the same roadside stand and the same farmers markets.
At one time, these farms were the breadbasket of the colonies. Soon they added tobacco, corn, dairy, livestock, and poultry. The need to get these local foods from farm to table spurred developments in transportation that are still the source of wonder today. It began with the Conestoga wagon, crafted in Lancaster County, and later used by pioneers moving westward. And it continued with coal-burning steam locomotives. The ingenuity of this region's people played a key role in advancing transportation and industry.
You know, at one time, almost anything you could think of was made right here in this area. That's because a strong work ethic and pride in craftsmanship have been passed down through generations. From a chocolate maker who got his start in Lancaster and became a household name, to a chocolate factory in York where making delectable treats has been a family tradition since 1921. From snack foods and ice cream to the making of a modern American legend, we're still the center of manufacturing today. Machines have always driven industrial innovations, but it takes the human mind to foster the idea and the human hand to run them.
Human ingenuity is responsible for many industry firsts that happened here. America's first iron steamboat, the famous Pennsylvania rifle, and the birthplace of modern weightlifting. So many small towns mark this region, all with a story to tell. Known by many as Pennsylvania Dutch country, these places reflect the influences of many cultures. Marietta, Mannheim, and Red Lion. Some towns' roots are obvious, such as Lidditz, which was established as a Moravian settlement. For more than 100 years, this town enforced a rigid code, and only Moravians lived here. While many traditions and cultures have evolved over time, pieces of our past remain evident as you travel from town to town. In fact, some say the distance between each town was planned according to the miles a horse could comfortably travel in one day. Others say it's the taverns that were a day's travel from each other. Many of these towns were built from lumber floated down the Susquehanna, stone from the nearby hills, and bricks from local brickyards. These keys to the past are still evident in each town's buildings and bridges. Innovation and tradition are also deeply rooted in the arts, humanities, music, and folk art of these small towns. Today, artists wonder over the work of Lewis Miller and Charles Demuth, while local craftspeople have developed a reputation as leaders in traditional arts and crafts. The site of the first Lancaster County Jail is now home to the Fulton Opera House, one of the only few theaters in the United States designated a National Historic Landmark. Today, the Fulton offers nationally renowned theater, yet maintains some features of that long-ago jail. There are rumors that the ghosts of this theater's past stars still haunt the stage on opening night. River of Islands. River that falls to the south. Long winding river. These are some of the many meanings of the Susquehanna's Native American name. Today, some think of it as the River of Power because of its many power-generating plants and large lakes. Throughout history, the river has served its people well as a transportation route, an industrial corridor, and a place of recreation and respite. It is over 400 miles long and the largest single source of water for the Chesapeake Bay. It is the thread that ties this region together, in some areas shallow and placid, in others deep and strong. The river, with its petroglyph-marked boulders, offers perhaps the strongest surviving evidence of the Native American culture. Their emphasis on tradition, custom, preservation, and heritage has been nurtured here. This land is a sacred trust blessed with natural wonders. I see gorges, ravines, and creeks, wildlife habitats and flyways, trails and parks. I see places where progress and preservation meet and work side by side. I see lands and communities that draw so many from so far to experience this area's unique beauty, culture, and family attractions. A place whose heritage is sustained by people who are building a prosperous future on the strong foundations of the past. This is my sanctuary. This region combines a city's vitality with the charm of days long gone. It's like a quilt, at first glance simple and beautiful, but upon closer look, full of intricate and complex patterns and themes. There are so many more stories this land and its people have to tell. And today, as I contemplate the history, the industry, the natural wonders below me, I realize that this is truly America.